The purpose of this tutorial is simply to get you started with Mocha for After Effects CS5. We aren't going to do anything complicated, but we're going to show you the basic principles so you can use the tools and start. And once you've started with something simple, you'll soon be able to move on to the more complex tracks. So you've got your Adobe programs, you've discovered Mocha, you've been told it's a tracking tool. You might think, why shouldn't I just use my tracker that's in After Effects? Well, it's because of all the extra functionality that Mocha can give you. It does a fantastic job with both simple and complex tracks and have all kinds of options that you simply don't get in this little tracker panel. So we're not going to use that, but we're just going to do a very simple track to show you the tools. We're going to track this boat across, we're going to add something to show it's tracked, and then we're going to cut the shape out so that we can color correct the boat separately from the background. I'm going to be skipping a whole load of different things, but as I say, this tutorial is just to get you started. So this is my footage in After Effects, just a boat going across the screen. I now need to load this into Mocha. So I open up Mocha, press start, and I end up with this page. I need to load the footage into Mocha. I either go File, New Project, or I click the New Project icon, and then the only option I have is to import the clip. Click Choose. This is the piece of footage I want to bring in, and it's going to tell me some details about that footage, where it is, what it's called, how many frames, 107 frames, it's 25 frames per second, meaning it's PAL footage, it's HDV. On that, just note, HDV footage raw from the camera will not load into Mocha. It needs to be outputted to a different format. There is another tutorial up for that, so I would advise you to go and have a look at that. Anyway, I'm going to click OK, all's fine with that, and the first thing that Mocha does is it caches the clip. Okay, so the clip's cached in. If it didn't cache instantly when you opened it up and put your clip in, you go File, Preferences, and then there's a big button right slap bang in the middle, Cache Original Clip. Make sure that that is selected, and it will cache your clip for you, ready to go. And if I push the play button just here, you can actually see the footage, and that will bounce forwards and then backwards all day, showing me the area that I am going to track. Okay, so I have some tracking tools down here where it says track, but they are grayed out at the moment. So how do I do a track? Well, I need to create a layer, and here are layer controls, and this is a layer panel. I need to create layers to be able to create a track. Now I have two tools up here called the X-Spline layer tool and this one here, which is the Bezier layer tool. I can select either of these two tools to start creating a layer. If I use the Bezier tool, it is very similar to the pen tool in After Effects or Illustrator. Click and drag and you create control handles like this. Click and drag, and I now have control handles that I can move around, stretch, elongate, just like a standard Bezier spline tool. But we're not going to create it with a Bezier tool. We're going to use Mocha's X-Spline tool. So if I go Control Z, and just keep going back, nothing selected. Now I go to the X-Spline tool, which is specific to Mocha and a very good tool. Click, and then I need to click around the object I'm going to track. I don't need to be too precise, so click, and as you can see, it sort of rubber bands around the whole thing. Click, and to get back, to undo, you either go back to the original where you get that little circle to the bottom right, or simply right click to undo, and that is my track layer. If I'm not completely happy with it, once I've finished, I can go in and I can move these points around as much as I like to put them wherever I want. What I do, however, want to do is rename the layer. So select the layer, double click it, highlight it, and call it Boat Track. It's important, hit return, it's important to call it track because you will be tracking this layer. If I click on it to select it, I will be tracking this layer. Very briefly, what do X-splines do? Show you on this bottom left hand corner. If I pull this tight, I get a very sharp, very sharp corner. But if I push it in and relax it, I get a very rounded corner. So that's what the X spline is doing. It's giving me the option to have a very tight or very rounded edge to my work. So these are the sorts of things you can do, but for this particular example it really doesn't matter. That should be absolutely fine. I might tighten that one up. There you go. Now, to actually do tracking, I can track forwards, I can track backwards. So let's track backwards. Here are my tracking tools. Now that I have a layer created, my tracking tools are all active, and the first one is track backwards. So let's just click on that and see what happens. There you go. Mocha is getting a rock solid track. There we go. So we now have a rock solid track where the line is blue, and then as soon as we go on to red, obviously there's nothing tracked. So we go to the end of the blue line and I can now track forwards. Okay, that's now done. We can turn off the tracking so it's not going to accidentally track it again, and then we can push play and look at our track forwards and backwards and see if any of those points are moving or if they're all holding together. They're all holding pretty good. That's a pretty good track. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Okay, hit the spacebar to stop. So we've now tracked this boat. So how do we get this tracking data into After Effects? Well, if you look down here, you've got a little bit that says, little tab that says export data, and then you've got export tracking data and something that says export shape data, which we'll look at in a minute. Click on export tracking data. Now we are going to take out the transform data. So if you look at After Effects transform data, if you click down here, you've got quite a few options: CS3, CS4, corner pin data, but actually we just want the transform data. So click on transform data. I could save it out to a file, but the quick and easy way is copy to clipboard. Then go to After Effects and then create the layer that we want to track to this boat. So let's do a little bit of text. So text tool, and click in here and type I feel seasick. Okay, click the arrow tool. Now I have this layer selected, and remember I have copied to clipboard the tracking data, and I am at the beginning of my clip, which is not tracked, and then I click on the text layer that I want to be tracked and I go edit, paste. Oh, but it's disappeared off the screen. What on earth's gone on? If I use my mouse to scroll down, it's disappeared. Well, if I click on I feel seasick and hit the U button to reveal what has got keyframes attached to them, I will see that I have got both the anchor point and position. I only want one of those, I don't want both of those, and seeing I'm just doing a track, I don't want anchor point. So I need to hit the stopwatch in front of anchor to get rid of the keyframes, and then I also need to right click on it and click reset. And I feel seasick, I click away, zoom in a bit, is now tracked solidly to the boat. It's in the wrong place. What if I want to move it? Click on the layer and then click on the word position. Make sure all of the keyframes are highlighted, then move to wherever you want. And if I want to rotate it, I would need to click on the word rotation. Make sure all of the keyframes are selected, use the rotation tool and rotate it to however I want. Now when I go back, click away, hit the spacebar to play, I feel seasick is tracked perfectly to the boat. So that's how to do a simple track. But what if we want to color correct the boat separately from its background? Right, well first of all let's select the arrow tool and let's turn off this I feel seasick layer. We don't need that anymore. In fact, we can even delete it. We're not going to use that again. Take the current time indicator back to the beginning and duplicate the layer. So Control D or Command D to duplicate the layer, and let's rename them. Select the bottom layer, hit the Enter key and type BG for background. Hit the Enter key again and hit the top one, select that, hit the Enter key and type boat. Hit the Enter key again. We've renamed our layers. Now what we want to do is go back to Mocha. So click back to Mocha Now I've got my tracked layer here, but I also now want to create a shape all the way around this boat that I'm going to link to this tracking data. So I don't need to see this tracking shape anymore, so I can turn off the eyeball and I can lock the layer. It's not going to be moved, nothing's going to happen to it, my track is safe and sound. Now I need to zoom into this boat and draw a shape around it. Right, how do you zoom in? Hold the Z key or Z key and then push away with the mouse, push away with the mouse, and if it's in just the wrong place, if you hold the X key, you get the hand tool, you can click and pull down until you have zoomed in as close as you can get. So I'm going to zoom in just a tad more. There we go, we're ready to create our shape. Now this layer is no longer active, so I can now create a new shape with my X spline. Go back to my X spline and let's go around this shape. Now I'm going to fast forward because obviously there's quite a bit to go around this shape. This is the layer that I've created, and I'm going to click on that layer, double click on it, and I'm going to call it boat shape, because that's what it is. It is a shape layer, and I am not going to track it. So I'm turning off track. I'm going to select the layer, and then I'm going to link it to the track layer that I have down here. So click on the layer so it's selected, and then go down to link to track. Can you see here, link to track? At the moment boat shape is linked to boat shape, but if I drop down the arrow and go to boat track, click on that, I have now linked the shape layer to the boat track. I'm now going to zoom out, hold the Z key and pull towards myself. Keep pulling, hold the X key to pan the shot. Now all these points are very distracting. I can turn them off with this little word tangents. Click on that and they've all gone, because I've got lots of points to get around this boat. But let's see what happens to this shape layer that I've created now that I've linked it to the track layer. I'm going to push the play. That shape layer is now rock solidly linked to the track, so as the track moved, the shape layer will move, and it's gone around the boat and we've got a perfect shape. Okay, so I now have a really good shape layer which I can export to After Effects to put on my top boat layer. Brilliant. Click Export Shape Data. Click on that. The only option I have is Mocha Shape Data for After Effects. And again, I could save it out, but all I need to do is copy to clipboard, click Copy to Clipboard, go back to After Effects, select the boat layer at the top, make sure your current time indicator is right at the beginning, and then go Edit, Paste. Nothing seems to happen until, of course, I turn off the visibility of the bottom layer, and then you will see, if I hit spacebar, I've got the boat going across screen, and underneath I have the remainder, and I can color correct the two separately. Very briefly and just for demonstration purposes, let's do that. Choose the background layer and let's go to Effect, Color Correction, and let's go to Levels. Now you can see that this is a badly taken shot, and we can actually start to color correct it and try and get a bit more color into it, a bit more information into it. We can make it lighter, we can make it darker. Well, actually we're going to start to make it a darker shot. If we go too dark, the boat seems to stand out a bit too much, so let's just make it a bit darker. And then let's take the boat, go Effect, let's go Color Correction, and let's choose this new one that's in After Effects CS5, black and white. Instantly my boat is black and white, but I have this lovely option at the bottom called Tint. Click on Tint, then click on the eyedropper and choose a colour that you want to tint the boat with. And if you want to make it more saturated or less saturated, you can simply pull it across on the same plane here, make it a little bit more saturated. And then what I might also want to add in is Effect, Color Correction, and I might want to add in levels to this particular one as well, and just make it a bit more punchy, a bit more. just playing with the, so that it would shine up against the background. There, and so that's how you can move a shape layer in, which you can color correct separately from the background to produce something that's going to look a lot better, hopefully, than what I've produced here. Anyway, hopefully that's shown you how to use Mocha and to start with it. My name's Andrew Devis. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.